The following is a production of Gearhead Media. All right, welcome back to the All Automotive Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Clausen. I've been in the automotive industry for over 30 years. I've owned my own repair shop for the last 18 years. So if you're new to the podcast, I welcome you. And I wanted to let you know, on this podcast, we talk about the stories that come out of my auto repair facility and my experiences. And we also talk technical aspects of the automotive industry, and we do some fun things too. We talk to guests. So if you're into these things, then this is the podcast for you. Welcome to the All Automotive Podcast. All right, welcome back. It's me, Matt. This is the All Automotive Podcast. And, well, we had a long weekend this past weekend. You know, President's Day and then the Friday and Thursday before. And so I found out a little while ago that my sister-in-law rents a condo in Florida, and for the month of February and March. And she invited my wife down. She knew she was going to have a couple of days off for President's Day weekend. And then, I was looking at the calendar and I was like, you know what's that weekend? You know what is on Sunday that day? It's the Great American Race. So, Matt kind of weaseled his way into getting into that situation where I could go on that weekend. And it was okay. It's fine. Anyway, so we took off Thursday afternoon, arrived in Orlando on Thursday evening, and then, like I said, sister-in-law rents a condo down there for a couple of months, and to get away from it all and to warm ourselves up from the cold of Michigan, at any rate. So we spent Friday, the majority of the day at the pool. They took off to go to some boat shops and do some women things. So I stuck around the pool and soaked in the sun. And then we went to dinner that night somewhere local in Orlando. And let me just tell you, is there just a lot of people in Florida? Or I don't know. I mean, I live in mid-Michigan, and there's some places that are busy, but geez, there's just a lot of people, and wow. So anyway, the condo is really close to Disney, so that's probably a good reason why. And don't get me wrong, happiest place on earth. I love that place. Epcot is cool. The Magic Kingdom. Hey, you got to go see the castle if you're in Orlando. And I haven't been to Orlando in probably 10 years or so. So it was cool for me to catch up and see what's changed since then. And one of the things that did change, they had built this Margaritaville down the road from where this condo was, and it's a resort. It's based on, Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. And throughout that area, they had built these shops and so forth that are outside. And, it's pretty cool, actually. You can drive through there. But we had dinner on Friday night at Juicy and Crab, and that was an experience in itself. Had the lobster. It was really good. And so after that, we were looking for an ice cream place, and we were looking for this Cold Stone place, and it happened to be over here by Margaritaville Resort, and it was in that little mallish outside area there. So we roll up. There's tons of people. No parking. We drove around the parking lot for a little while and got a parking spot. We found we were on the back side of it, so we really didn't see a whole lot when we pulled in. Went around this roundabout a couple of times. Inside joke. And anyway, so we found some parking spots out back, and then we pulled up, found a parking spot, and then we walked in, and we walked upon a car show, which was, they blocked off one of the streets in there, and then there was guys in there with car shows. Now, I don't know if it's a Florida thing, but this car show, these cars were really cool. Don't get me wrong. There was several Camaros. There was some Corvettes, some older Corvettes. There was a new Corvette. It was really cool. But everybody installs these LED lights, like in the wheel wells and around the wheels and under the hood. And, it was night, so it was kind of cool. I don't know if they do that at all. Everybody that works on their cars or does stuff down there. And I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if it's a Florida thing or what's going on, and it was cool. This one guy had taken his Chevrolet Camaro, and I want to say it's around the 2010, 11, 12 year range. Right after they first came out, and it was a big deal with the Transformers movie. And so he had Bumblebee. So if you're aware of that movie, Bumblebee was the Camaro. That was the yellow Camaro. And that's when the retro looking Camaro had come out. I want to say it was 2010. Anyway, it was that vintage of Camaro. It wasn't one of the sleeker ones that was before they discontinued them, so that's a topic of another podcast. Anyway, he Lamborghini'd the doors, and I thought that was really cool. So I went over there and I was looking for the guy, and I didn't see him, and I wanted to see how difficult that was. You open the doors don't open away from the body. They open out and up, I guess. So if you look for like Lamborghini and you open the door and the door flings out and up. Okay. So it looks like wings, I guess, if you want to say. So it was pretty cool because he had it in the Bumblebee style. So that was kind of interesting to me. So I took a couple pictures of it, and I may post them on my social media so you can see that. And I would assume that the person that owned the car would be okay with that too. So anyway, so along the way, we come across, as we were eating our ice cream, we came across this really cool restaurant. And I don't know if you've ever been to one of these or not. It's called Ford's Garage. And now I'm a Chevrolet man, but I'm also in Michigan, so I'm in Ford's backyard too. So Ford's Garage is well known for very good food, and it was a really nice restaurant. So we were thinking about different places to go. So Saturday night, tomorrow night, this is Friday, was when we were walking around. So we took the opportunity Saturday night to go to this place. And now there's a couple of them in Florida, Cape Coral and Bradenton, and then Champions Gate. Also, there's one in Daytona Beach, and we're getting there. And then Estro, Florida, Fort Myers, Gainesville. So it looks like it's a Florida thing to me. And then the one we went to is in Kissimmee, and it's on Margarita Boulevard. And so anyway, this, I'm telling you right now, the burgers are top notch, and the service was top notch. So if you find yourself looking for one of these places, they're in Florida. They're also in Indiana, Kentucky. They're here in Michigan, and then they're in New York as well. So the ones that are in Michigan, Dearborn, Novi. So there's two in Michigan, which is kind of nice. There's a couple in Kentucky. Looks like one in Florence, Kentucky. And then Indiana, let's see, where's in Indiana? Avon, Indiana, and Noblesville, Indiana. There's two in Indiana. And then New York is in Smith Haven Mall in Lake Grove, New York. And then there's a couple in Ohio. One's in Liberty, one's in Norwood, Ohio, and then Plano, Texas. And then there's one in Richmond. So they're growing, I would say. And, hey, it's great. Burgers are to die for. Everything on the menu was good. It's very auto related. So if you are an automotive person and you're listening to my podcast, you should be. It's really cool. I just couldn't believe it. We ordered onion rings, and I'm old enough to know and that the funnels weren't always made out of plastic. My dad had one that was metal, and it had a little articulating spout that you could bend in certain ways to get into the oil fill cap. And so they turned this thing upside down, and then they shoved all the onion rings on it, and this thing must have been like a foot and a half tall. And so we got that for the whole table, and we got some pretzel bites, and man, I got a black and blue burger that was just perfectly cooked. So, and I think everyone around the table except for one person got burgers, and then they got the salmon. That was really good too. Good, awesome restaurant. Check it out. So Sunday is the day for me to go to the Daytona 500. And I was meeting up with an old friend of mine from Ohio. Used to work with him, and I haven't seen Ron in 31 years. And it was good to catch up with him. And he had a couple of his buddies that were going to the race as well. Headed off for Daytona pretty early. It was around 8 o'clock ish. And we were all in Orlando, and I met them at their Airbnb, and then we took off for Daytona, which isn't really a long drive. It's about an hour and 20 minutes depending on traffic.
We will be back after a short break.
Hey everybody, Matt here. Wanted to take a minute to talk about our main sponsor, GeForce Automotive. Did you know that they're a certified service center through Auto Value? What does that get you, you say? Well, that gets you 3 years or 36,000 mile warranty on select repairs. Want to know more about that? Visit their website at www.geforceautomotive.net. Click on that banner that says make an appointment and make your appointment today. We're proud to have them on board as the main sponsor of the All Automotive podcast. So now let's get back to it. More of the All Automotive podcast. And we get to the area of the speedway, and we were across the street in a parking lot or in a lot that they were selling parking spots to, and we're all tailgating and playing cornhole and having a good old time prior to the race. Now, there was a couple of things that were going on that I guess I was aware of it, but I didn't know that it was going to cause such a problem. But so we decided to pack up and load up and head across the street. Basically, we're right across International Speedway Drive right there in Daytona. I mean, you can look through the trees, I guess, and you could see the track. And I don't know if you've ever been there and had a tour. I highly recommend that too, because they'll take you around the track and you can actually physically see the 45-degree banking that's in, the turns. And it's just something to see. It really is. And if you're a NASCAR fan and a race fan in general, there's just something about this racetrack that it just exudes racing. And it's one of those things that it was a bucket list thing for me when we went 10 years ago, I guess. And we were in Orlando and we had taken the kids to Disney, and I was just like, we should take a day and we'll go to Daytona and check out the racetrack. So we did that and did the tour. So I'd been there once, but they were remodeling the stands when we were there. So like I said, I haven't been there in several years, but I'd never been there to a Daytona 500 or the Firecracker 400 in July. So it was something special for me. And so we head across the street. We got all of our stuff and our coolers, and we loaded up and headed across the street. The police were nice, and we were talking to people, and everybody was excited for the race. And then we get across the street, and we're going to go through security. Well, at that point, we got stopped about halfway between International Speedway Drive and the security checkpoint. And any other race that I've ever been to, I've gone to Michigan International Speedway hundreds of times, and they check you put your, sort of like going through TSA at the airport, but you just put your medal and so forth in the in a little cubby. They check it out, and then you walk through the metal detector, and you're fine. They look in your cooler if you grab one, or if you have one, whatever. So a little bit different about the security because President Trump was there. It was significantly longer to get into the racetrack, which I get, the security. So the closer we got, and it took about an hour and a half, almost hour and 45 minutes for us to get through that. And boy, that was a little bit of a challenge. It wasn't too sweltering hot, but it wasn't the greatest time standing there in the middle of thousands of people waiting to get through security. So we finally get up there, and, obviously it's the Secret Service that's doing the checking of things. And I'm not sure if this is a legitimate thing or not, but none of us had cell service for quite a few minutes. And I'm not sure if that was because Air Force One was landing across the street at Daytona International Airport or what. But a lot of us didn't have cell service for quite a while, and then finally the cell service came back, and then we ended up getting through and up we went through the Chevrolet gate and up the escalator and down the way, and we got to our seats, and so it was threatening rain, and we thought we knew we were going to get wet, and we just didn't know when. So the race did start on time after President Trump came out and waved to the crowd, and then got in his motorcade and drove around the speedway. I'm pretty sure they did 2 laps. If not, I'm sure it was 1. It was on all the big screens. He was waving and everything. So it was a neat experience. I hadn't seen a president in a long time myself, in that close proximity, I guess. And so it was a good experience as far as that goes. So again, race gets started. 11 laps later, rain comes. Yellow flagged it, then red flagged it, and it rained pretty good there for a while. And so we were making the best of it. So we went to the gift shop and tried to stay dry. We made some friends underneath the grandstand. We made some friends from Tampa, talked to them for quite a while, and then got back out. At about it did start roughly around 2:30ish was the green flag, but then it was I want to say it was like a 3-hour rain delay almost. Rain stopped at about 3:30, maybe 3:15. So then they got the jet dryers and Eddie Van Air Titans out, and started drying the track, got the pit road dry, and things were progressing pretty quickly, and finally got the race back underway, and it was just fantastic, the racing and just to see it, in person. I know it's something. If you've ever been to it, you know the feeling, and it's a lot different than what it is here in Michigan, because Michigan's like a 2-mile D-shaped oval, and so it had kind of a similar kind of look to it. But here in Michigan, the cars kind of get spread out, so the noise is kind of just constant. But in Daytona, it's like they're all 35 cars or whatever are all in one little pack, and when they come screaming by, it's just, oh man. It's just one of those things that I get really excited and the hair stands up on your arms, It's one of those things. Anyways, it was really cool. So they come roaring by, and then you get a break. Your ears kind of get a break. So it was nice. It was really cool. So they got the rest of the first stage in. There was another short little rain spit that delayed it another half hour or so. But again, they finally did get it going, and then end of stage 1. And then I ended up sticking it out all the way until the end of stage 2. And then because I did have a long drive back to Orlando, I just was watching the clock and trying to make a good decision to leave with enough time to get back at a decent hour, because we had to fly home on Monday, which was the plan all along, but didn't want to get back at 1-2 o'clock in the morning, because there's one lap, they're trying to do the green white checker like 5 times or whatever, and it sounded like that's what happened, and that's what did end up happening. And hey, one of my guys won. I was there, and it was an experience. It was a really good experience, and I really liked it. And William Byron won the race, and so it was a really good experience. And I do recommend, if you have not been to the Daytona 500, I do highly recommend getting yourself there if you're a NASCAR fan. So that's one of the things I'm going to try and do, over the next course of the next 5 or 10 years or so, is I'm going to try and go to different tracks and experience different things at different places. And as far as I know now, I knew, all I knew was, Michigan International Speedway, and we had 2 races a year, and now we've only got 1, and it was in August the last couple of years. And they changed it back to June, which I was thrilled about, because that's usually around where my birthday is around when that first race was, around Father's Day or whatever, and that's right around where my birthday's at. So that's my treat to myself, is to go to the NASCAR race. And so, I was a big Tony Stewart fan for a lot of years, and then he retired and started doing the drag racing thing, and still was involved with his Stewart Haas racing team. So I did have some drivers to root for. There was that, and then Kevin Harvick retired, and then I had Josh Berry to root for, and then Tony decides that he wants to just move forward and do his thing with the drag racing thing, which I don't blame him. Him and Leah are now married with a son now, and hey, NASCAR to him he was all done with it. So we lost all those teams, and they kept one. So it's Cole Custer with the Haas factory team. And so they kept the 41 car with Cole Custer, and then Noah Gragson in the 4, I guess, is with a different team. And then the other 2 charters went to a couple of different teams. I'm not exactly sure which ones, but so I'm going to this Daytona 500, and I'm wearing my Kevin Harvick shirt, because I don't know who I'm going to root for. And maybe I should ask you guys, who should I root for this year in NASCAR? So I was appreciative of Ron and his buddies, taking time out of it to show me around, and that was really cool to catch up with Ron and see him and do all that. So again, I'm here with my Kevin Harvick shirt, and I'm just like, who am I going to root for? And so Rodney Childers was the crew chief for Josh Berry and Kevin Harvick, and then he got hired by Spire Motorsports, and now he's Justin Haley's crew chief. So I was kind of, I guess, following them because I'm a Rodney Childers fan too. So, I kind of, my thing goes a little bit deeper than just the driver. So it's like, I gotta get with his team. But I did have a couple years ago, Spire Motorsports was nice enough to allow me to hang around with them for the day. I won a contest at my shop that one of the associate sponsors of Dorman, they were an associate sponsor on the Spire Motorsports number 7, which was formerly driven by Corey LaJoy. And so I got to hang out with those guys for the day. So I'm kind of a little closet fan. I was a closet fan of Spire Motorsports, but now I guess I am kind of a fan of Spire Motorsports. They're an up and coming team, and they're doing good things, and they hired, Rodney, and they got him paired up with Justin Haley, and I think Rodney is a good fit for a new style driver, although, he was, there was some challenges there with Kevin Harvick, but for the most part, those two were kind of on the same page, and that's why they won races. And I mean, they had good equipment, and Spire's got good equipment as well. And, we'll see. I mean, Justin Haley had a pretty decent finish. If I look on my NASCAR web app, I guess I could tell you who did what. And so I guess I can just go down the list and see, because it's pretty much where they finished. So 22nd, and he's driving a Chevy, so, it can't be too bad. Justin Haley, number 7 in the Chevy Camaro. But, hey, William Byron won the race 2 years in a row for him. Right place at the right time. And that you can't ask for something more than that. Typical restrictor plate racing in Daytona. It's just, they're all in a big pack and they start pushing and shoving. And you'd think by now they would maybe stop blocking so much. Joey Logano, I guess, is the king of blocking. So that's that. But hey, had a great time in Florida. Just wanted to talk to you guys about that, and I was excited about it, and I thought I'd share all that story with you, and we'll see you next time. All right, that's going to do it for another episode of the All Automotive Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Clausen, and stay tuned. In a couple of months, I'm going to the Firekeepers 400, so more NASCAR talk as we get more involved with some racing this year. And again, I thank you all for being a part of the All Automotive Podcast. Until next time, I'm Matt Clausen saying, hey, keep that greasy side down.